I'm Mirian Vilela. I'm the Executive Director of the Earth Charter International Secretariat, based in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I've been involved and working with the Earth Charter since '95, more or less.
And my name is Maria Lydia Marco-Tulli, and I'm a PhD candidate at Pacifica. And I did my field work at the Earth Charter Institute in 2013. And we're here to talk about the Earth Charter and its relationship to Pacifica.
Mm-hmm. So how this relationship started, I think we need to go back to 20 years ago when Steve Eisenstadt went to first Earth Charter workshop that took place in May '95 in The Hague. And that was the first workshop that initiated this new phase of the Earth Charter Initiative. Because before that, the whole discussion around the Earth Charter was around the UN. Mm-hmm. And so, because the initial idea of an Earth Charter emerged from the Brundtland Commission report. So the Brundtland Commission, UN, issued a UN report called Our Common Future that made a recommendation for the need for a new charter. So given that, the discussion about the Earth Charter went around in the agenda of the preparation for the Earth Summit back in '92. But during that time, the whole idea of an Earth Charter was still in the sphere of an intergovernmental dialogue. So given that governments did not achieve that agreement around an Earth Charter back in '92 during the Earth Summit, the process was then taken to the voices of those who are not normally heard, non-state actors. And I think it represented also a big shift in the way in which policies are made, charters were made, and was part of this beginning of the empowerment of non-state actors of civil society. What are the voices of civil society? So back in '95, a number of world leaders realized that the most important thing to build a charter, rather than going to the states and making it an intergovernmental negotiation, let's go beyond that and look at what are the voices of people with regards to what is the vision of common good. What's the vision of this more just, sustainable, and peaceful world we want? So I think it was quite historical in the sense of, okay, the answer to that question cannot only come from governments. Let's ask for the peoples of the world. And so Pacifica was represented in that workshop that was held 20 years ago with key leaders from around the world, different cultures, different religions, and academic backgrounds, areas of expertise, to start asking that question of what are the values and principles that should guide humanity towards a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. So the relationship started there when the founder of Pacifica was part of that conversation.
And what was his specific role in sort of bringing psychology to the Earth Charter?
Well, he did ask some questions that I don't remember the exact questions now, 20 years ago in that workshop, which was related to, let's think of what's our dream, what's our vision of this better world, but also the other question was, what is the planet expecting or asking from us as humanity? Let's listen to the planet, the peoples of the planet, or the living beings that are there in our planet, and listen from them, what are they expecting from us? I think that was an important added value. He was also working in the initial discussion about what should be those values and principles around the Earth Charter. But then the Earth Charter Initiative went through a whole process of consultation and worldwide dialogue. And I think since the launch of the Earth Charter in the year 2000, we have not really had as much as we should. I think closeness in terms of how much depth psychology and the world of psychology could help this process. So the interesting thing about that for reflection is that we were trying, I mean, for the past 20 years with the Earth Charter Initiative, we have been working on the quest for behavior change, elevating the level of consciousness and sensibility of people, to understand what are these values and ethical vision that should drive our decision making. But we have been doing that without the world of psychology, much to my surprise nowadays. And a number of people are working in movements, I would say, that are seeking to contribute to this great turning or this great transition that we're all looking for to happen. But working from the fields of policy making, international law, then in the field of education, we need now to bring, I would say, the depth of knowledge of psychology into this process.
So Pacifica has started a new program which emphasizes community psychology, liberation psychology, and eco-psychology. And I'd like for you to speak a little bit more about how the Earth Charter can be used and what kind of capacity can be brought to that program through the Earth Charter Institute.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Earth Charter initiative would gain a lot by, and I think would be a relationship of mutual interest if we were to have a closer relationship and partnership among both. One is I would envision that the Earth Charter could serve as an instrument, an added value and reference for researchers and students of the program when working with community liberation and eco-liberation, as a reference, as an ethical framework or a guiding framework for the work that they are doing. And the Earth Charter in itself, the initiative or the movement would gain, I would say, would benefit from the experience, I would say, and that can be generated through that process and the knowledge from the angle of psychology. As I was mentioning before, we have been working and trying to work on processes of change or shift of mental models, shift of perspectives to a new paradigm. And we have been working from the angle of policy making, international law, and even education. And psychology has been pretty much disconnected from a very important sphere of work, I would say, in these global movements for social change. And so it's amazing how could we envision to enter into that sort of global movement without the depth and the added value of knowledge that comes from psychology. So I think it will be a relationship that both would gain. One is by having students from the new program to embrace and make good use of the Earth Charter as a reference into their studies. We would also benefit by having students come to have their community work in our office back in Costa Rica. So we'll see how it goes.
You also have a relationship with the Paulo Freire Institute in Brazil, and could you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. Back in '95, when the Earth Charter Commission, International Commission, was being formed, there was an international commission of 21 members that was put together at around '96 to oversee and guide the consultation process and the drafting process of the Earth Charter between '96 and the year 2000. Paulo Freire was invited to be part of that process. He, in the last year before his death, he was involved in that process. And I would say that that has pretty much influenced his thinking, in the sense that many people say that he would have, had he had the time to put together another book or an extra chapter of his books, it would be on Earth oppression. But when he passed away in mid of '97, the Paulo Freire Institute as an institution became one of our key partners in Brazil, not only in the drafting and the dialogue around the Earth Charter, but also they contributed pretty much, but also in the development of eco-pedagogy, which was actually emerged out of an event that we collaborated back in '99 in Brazil with educators, with the need to, how can we bring the Earth Charter to education? And then the idea of eco-pedagogy emerged out of that conversation. So the Paulo Freire Institute and the Earth Charter International have been collaborating closely, not only during the process of drafting and consultation of the Earth Charter and how to engage the voices of educators and those working in the empowerment of civil society in Brazil. So therefore they have contributed significantly with the content and the drafting, but also since the launch of the Earth Charter in the year 2000, they have been collaborating ways of how can the Earth Charter be used in processes of learning and education in Brazil. So with teacher training and projects in communities that the Paulo Freire Institute is leading and involved in different places in Brazil, they have been using the Earth Charter as a basis for a lot of those efforts that they are leading.
When I was in Costa Rica, we had the opportunity to work on a piece with people who were at La Reforma, which is a prison in Costa Rica. And I'd like for you to speak a little bit more about that. My understanding was that some of them, this was the first document that they had ever learned to read from. Mm-hmm. And so I find that to be incredibly transformative.
It was a project led by two educators that are passionate, fascinated with what they do. And basically, it was a collaborative project organized with the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Education in Costa Rica to offer basic education from literacy to environment education to the prisoners of the biggest prison in Costa Rica. It's called La Reforma. It's a prison like many other prisons with a lot of problems, starting with discrimination, lack of communication, violence inside the prison in terms of atmosphere. And what I understood from that project is that the prisoners felt cared for. They felt empowered. The sense of dignity of theirs was elevated by inviting them to be part of a worldwide movement, international project that talked about ethics and values. And some of them would say, because I was asked, because I was given a space to offer my voice, I felt empowered, I felt a sense of ownership, and above all, a sense of responsibility to carry forward with the vision of the Earth Charter. So I think that was quite transformative for them. That project lasted for about 4 years. We've put together an article with that experience and also a short video that captures just a little glance of that experience. But I think the most interesting takeaway from that lesson is that normally we go to world leaders to endorse something. We go to the governments, the heads of states, to ask them either to give us the answer or to ask them to commit to something, which normally they do, but they often forget because there are a lot of other things in the agenda. But there are people in various levels that by having them embrace the idea and feel this sense of ownership and empowerment could make a significant difference in their lives and in the sphere of influence where they are.
I kind of want to, one last question I sort of want to ask you is, on a personal level, you know, how has the Earth Charter transformed you? Is there a story you could tell us about your personal experience with the Charter?
Well, I think I've been working with this for 20 years, and I have been privileged, I would say, to be able to listen to the different voices of people from different cultures, different generations, in different areas of knowledge. And I would say what I can see now is that we often close our hearts, our minds, our ears to people who are not like us. And there's no connection. Normally there's no connection because we don't know. Yeah? So we often put walls. To give you an example, is like putting a dental doctor to speak with an engineer. From the minute someone says, "Oh, I'm a dental doctor and you're an engineer," it's very hard to communicate. We have to find something in common to communicate. Yeah. But so for me, it's an ongoing learning on how to listen, appreciate, and more than appreciate, feel the other. So have empathy or appreciation, interest in the other that might be from a completely different culture, background, knowledge, either generation. So yes, in some of the many examples of experience I have had is by being in a given situation where I can make bridges, I would say, with these different worlds of people and see commonalities rather than the differences. Appreciate the differences, but feel very close to the other human being, even if it's from a completely background than mine. So I think the working in the Earth Charter movement has helped me with the capacity to develop the capacity to listen and to appreciate, care for the other, even if the other is completely different from me. Does it help?
Yes. Thank you, Miriam. I know that it's been very transformative for me, and I would encourage the students of Pacifica to come down to Costa Rica and work with the Institute and to write about the Earth Charter and incorporate it in their work. So thank you.